Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and we're a couple days removed from the launch of the Great Dark Beyond, and I thought I would give you guys some deck recommendations, both in standard and wild, of decks you could take and reasonably expect to climb, whether it's silver, gold, platinum, diamond, or legend. And I will put out this disclaimer, this is still very early on. I'm gonna have a crafting guide this weekend going over what I think the best cards to craft so far are legendaries and epics, but I feel like the meta is going to be evolving a lot over the next week or two. We'll expect a balance patch probably in a couple of weeks, but we'll likely have to do an update video on this because I feel like we're gonna have new decks popping up over time. But yeah, these are my best recommendations so far. And let's start with standard, where of course, Elemental Mage is the most popular deck, arguably the best deck out there so far, and it got a lot of new, really good cards this expansion. Blazing Accretion probably being the best of them. 3 mana, draw 3 elementals or fire spells, as long as your deck is built that way or nobody slipped anything funny in there. Of course, Sauron, unbelievable payoff card of giving all of your elementals fire spell damage +1. You hit that on like a Surger, and then with a new Solar Flare, can effectively OTK one turn, which we did like in yesterday's video. It was disgusting. And yeah, you're gonna see this deck a lot, and it's a good deck to play and relatively safe to craft, right? You can craft Sauron as your legendary, and basically everything else is epics and rares, including Spontaneous Combustion, which is another new card. So again, you're looking for a good cheap deck, you really can't go better than Elemental Mage. You want to beat Elemental Mage? Well, one of the best performing decks is running like 2 new cards, I think. Odyn Warrior, because you can gain a lot of armor, clear their board, and you do have a win condition, of course, in Odyn, which is, you know, remained basically the same. We used to be 8 mana, but there is one new card, warrior card at least, Hostile Invader, incredible AoE card with the Battle Cry, Spellburst, and Death Rattle, dealing 2 damage to all other minions. Can be like tempo plus a board clear, which is really, really good. A card I definitely think I underrated. And of course, a card that will definitely be in our crafting guide this weekend, the Ceaseless Expanse. Incredible AoE that goes into like nearly any slower deck. It's just really good. Once you get it down to cheaper 0 mana, a 15/15 Twisting Nether is pretty effective. Ziliax in here with Twin Module, Perfect Module, and yeah, Odyn Warrior, one of the better counters out there. So if you don't have a lot of the newer cards and you want to try and help yourself beat up on those mages, and apparently if you're running into Quasar Rogue, which I am not recommending because the win rate is not great on it, still think it's going to get nerfed, by the way, but that's a discussion video maybe tomorrow we'll have. Regardless, yeah, this deck's doing pretty darn well, so Odyn Warrior is certainly solid, but I will say there's no standout like top best of the best decks. These are all just really good decks, and Death Knight has the most variety. I'm recommending 3 decks here. There's more I could recommend. Like Rainbow's really good, Double Blood's really good, but we're gonna stick with one that runs no new cards. That's really solid, always near the top. Double Frost runs, I don't believe, a single new card. You've got the Razzle Dazzler package in there still. You got Corpsicle, you could like down the ship, and it's the same deck we've talked about a bunch already. It's still doing really well. Reska's a really good card, and we got Leroy in here just to try and kill those decks faster than, you know, this is not built for the late game. This is definitely more of like 7 mana is our definite cap with the Razzle Dazzler, but the deck's still performing well. So again, you don't have new cards, this one might be good for you. And I guess I'll leave off with the last deck that has like no new cards, which is also one of the best performing decks. I am trying to rank them in order of effectiveness, by the way. Top deck being the best and going down from there, so just be aware of that. Nostalgia Shaman is still doing incredibly well this expansion. Like no new cards, I believe. You have Wave of Nostalgia, which can give you a bunch of random old legendaries because you have so many different ways of just summoning tokens, getting on that board. And if you can stick a board, you got Thrall's Gift into Bloodlust, and then you have late game in Razzle Dazzler and Horn of Windlord, which could just burn your opponent down with a lot of damage. So again, really effective. This deck is not new at all. Ziliax has Pylon Module and Ticking Module, and again, probably the last of the not so new decks to recommend, because well, Reno Deathlight isn't necessarily new, but it's got a bunch of new cards, and this might be the best Deathlight deck so far. Like there's a bunch and they're doing great. I hit Legend with Deathlight, but not this. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, you do have some new cards in here, like the Ceaseless Expanse. Advance, incredibly good card. You got your usual stuff like Reska, Yogg, Reno, Climactic Necrotic Explosion making the cut. So I'm already like, I want to try this deck. I might make a video on this one, actually. We probably will. Twin Module, Perfect Module is your Ziliax. But yeah, we got some more new cards. Eredar Brute card I think I underrated. In Wild, this is actually really solid. People are running it well. We'll see that in a second. This card just, yeah, the lifesteal and taunt and the amount of stats, it turns out is worth the cut in some decks. Exarch Maladar, being able to cheat out one of these big cards early can be super effective, including Climactic. You can do that and buff it up. Airlock Breach, we all know, incredibly solid card. One of the early candidates of a card that could get nerfed at some point. And our ETC, we got another Airlock Breach. We got Kill Jaded to try and win that ultra late game. Threads of Despair, dude, I need to play this deck. I will try and get a video out on this in the near future. This looks fun. I know there's not a ton of new cards, but it's got that mid-range package, and I just love this style of deck. So yeah, you want to give Reno Deathlight a shot. It's doing really well. It's one of the better performing decks out there. The deck that I hit Legend with, which we'll have a gameplay video on later today, one of the cards I was hyping up, the triple rune card, Assimilating Blight. It's making the cut. It's not amazing. I'm not going to say the card is crazy broken, but it's good, especially when you hit Soulbound Spire. Because yeah, Starships, you'll know, we aren't really recommending many Starship decks. They're just too slow right now, and they're like really close. I feel like they'll get there, but right now, for the most part, they're really slow. But this one's pretty good because it's got the Death Rattle where it comes back with the based on the attack value. So get a couple of them going. You got your Death Rattle. You get the armor off of this piece and can get a big minion, do some good work, and Exodar and deal a bunch of damage. And of course, you have again Ceaseless Yogg. It's like a mid-range deck with a bit of a control shell, and you have Threads in there as well for some AoE. I really enjoy this deck. Again, gameplay video later today. Really fun one, and was a relatively easy legend climb for me. I was really close already with an 11x, but had a positive win rate. Theo's top 50 with it. It's where I stole it like I always do. And yeah, Starship Deathlight, absolutely. This deck's legit, and I think as it gets refined, it'll just get better. Hunter's doing pretty well with eggs. Not the freaking broken egg. I thought the new egg would be so good. People aren't playing it yet. I'm confused. And they're playing the card that I said would be the worst card. Detailed Notes, because it's really good with the Rengari Scout. Getting those beasts, that can fuel your Stranglethorn Heart. I've completely whiffed on the Hunter set so far in my reviews. But yeah, it's kind of a take on the old Egg Hunter with the Mystery Egg. That's what the whole part is about. You can Yodeler it, get a bunch of beasts, charge your opponent down with Plush, mill them with Mukla. It can be really frustrating. We have the new card in here, Exarch Niall, really incredible, changing your hero power to tracking. And you like an OTK, of course, with like Absorbent Parasite, always a bigger Jormonger on like one of your beasts, and you just get so much value out of Rengari Scout. This card is so good. I'm gonna put it back in the deck. I accidentally clicked it. We'll put it back in the deck, but yeah, if you're looking for a hunter deck, this looks to be the best performing one so far. Druid got a bit of a boost with spell damage Druid. This is the one that's performing the best. Dungar Druid was trending all right, but that's just like outright scam. This is kind of also degenerate, just blowing your opponent up with spell damage. But yes, Ethereal Oracle. This card is one of the cards I think that could get nerfed at some point, but maybe not. We'll see. It's such an absurd card with the spell damage +1, spell burst, draw 2 cards. Think it's the only new card in here, right? But it just works so well with the spell damage stuff. You draw your bird, you draw your spells, you can discount them Lifebinder's Gift, you have your locations and all that. Really solid card. I wonder what, I haven't seen the Wild spell. Well, actually, Wild's so screwed because of Holy Wrath. That's why you don't see it. But when Holy Wrath probably gets nerfed in Wild, I imagine you're going to see something very similar to this with Renathal and Guff, because that was really good before the expansion came out. But off of that tangent, this deck seems to be doing really well. If you're looking for a Druid deck, more combo-centric, yeah, spell damage Druid, very solid deck. Wheel Warlock seems to be legit. Making a comeback, another deck I definitely want to make a video on because it's Wheel of Death, man. Wheel of Death, it's legit. Basically got a big boost by having, first off, Kill Jaden, so you're not dying in fatigue. if you get that wheel off. And of course, ceaseless. Once you play wheel, you're deleting a bunch of cards. That ceaseless can come down in conjunction with all your other cards, getting down your Fanatum and all that stuff. And of course, you can duplicate all those stats with Forge of Wills, and you have endgame basically to bring back the Dark Alley Pack stuff. Just a bunch of stats. You got your healing, your AoE, and I faced this quite a bit on my Legend climb, and I'm like, I gotta try this. So again, another deck I will try and get a video out. I'm really excited this set. There's so much different stuff to try out. I wish there was more Starship stuff, but at least it's a bit more on the slower end. It seems to be working out. Twin module, perfect module for Ziliax. And yeah, if you want to play Wheel Warlock and you have a lot of legendary cards, this might be the deck for you. If you want to start smorking, though, we haven't talked a lot about smorking. Another Starship deck. There's not been a ton of them, although very much not heavy on the Starship, is Pirate Demon Hunter. Basically, just Pirate Demon Hunter running Fell Fused Battery, and we'll try and pronounce it correctly this time. Shatter Shard Turret. Sorry, last video where I mispronounced that, I had been up all night. I had a leak in my apartment. It was crazy. So yes, hopefully I don't mess up as many words this video. But yeah, it's Pirate DH with a couple of new Starship cards, and basically everything else is the same. Warp Drive, of course, to draw those cards. Mana Cheat, pretty effective. So yeah, if you want more of that aggressive game, punish a bit more of those decks trying to be greedier, Pirate Demon Hunter is a pretty solid pick. Paladin could be ranked a lot higher in this list. The sample sizes I'm finding so far on Pipsy Paladin are pretty low, but the deck is performing well on the sample size I have found. There are new cards now with Pipsy Paladin that they're able to utilize. In particular, Lumia, 6 mana 9/9, just, yeah, it gives you immunity and your opponent, depending on how things are going, but that is a very large body that you can replay with your con man, and then eventually combo your opponent out with Sun Sapper Lanessa, with Divine Bruise, with Horn of the Windlord, and your Holy Glow Sticks. Very similar to the deck before that came out, before the expansion, but yeah, a couple new tools in here. Ethereal Oracle, because it's just a cracked card, and yeah, overall, so the sample size pretty low on this, but it does seem to be performing pretty well with Ziliax at your Virus module. Perfect module because you want to cheat it out, of course, a Pipsy, and yeah, Virus module can be pretty solid. And I'll leave off with Asteroid Shaman. This was the best performing Asteroid Shaman list I could find. It's not doing amazingly well. The main thing about Asteroids, don't cheat ability mana. It doesn't do anything super unfair until the later game when it gets really darn crazy, and it keeps getting further refined. I've already noticed Turbulus is not being used. No Tourist. The straight Shaman cards where, yeah, you want to get your Asteroids going, whether it be, basically you want a Shutter Block, right? You really want to Shutter Block either Incendious or like a Bolide, and they're already cutting some of the Asteroid cards, right? The 2 mana 2/2's not in here. You triangulate to get more, and I'm very curious if like Baking Soda Volcano should slot in here at some point to give you some healing, some AoE, but we got Aftershocks, got Gaslight to try and do a big wombo combo after you shuffle everything in, and math, or like win rate wise, this is the only Asteroid deck I've seen at Legend and Diamond through Legend with a positive win rate. And there's a lot of cool new cards, right? Meteor Storm, Ceaseless Expanse, Nobundu giving you that spell burst location, Bolide Behemoth, Ultraviolet Breaker, a lot of new cards in here. Ethereal Oracle, Triangulate. So if you got the cards, give it a shot, but it's definitely on the lower end. You'll also notice that I did not recommend a Priest or a Rogue deck because I couldn't really find one that's performing particularly well. They're hovering around like 50% win rate. Although I do think Rogue will get nerfed anyways. That is, again, I think we'll talk about it tomorrow, how big a fail the design is on Quasar, where people are still begging for it to get nerfed and the deck sucks, at least math-wise. It's pretty crazy. Wild, yeah. Wild's dominated by Holy Wrath. It's not a meme. 100 damage, turn 5, very consistently. I got Legend with a similar list to this. Yeah, you just Holy Wrath it. And it's very, very easy. You have so many different tutors over Planner, Tuskar Trawler. You got Disruption in here, like Rebuke. You could time out to stall. But basically, you want to get like either Seashell out or Holy Cowboy to discount one part of the piece, whether it's Holy Wrath or Order in the Court, and then just play them on 5 mana. You can play that for 5, you do 100 damage. And not many decks can really deal with that. And it's really hard to kill them in time. It's possible, but it's pretty difficult, and there's not much removal in the deck because, again, you only got to get to turn 5 most of the time. It's that consistent, and I imagine this deck gets nerfed. This is a pretty safe, like, this is one of these interactions in Wild where it's like, okay, turn 5, 100 damage for a 2-card combo we probably have to look at. Yes, you can draw Ceaseless, but I've literally drawn Ceaseless early, Finley'd it, and still OTK'd on 5. More than once. So yeah, this deck is absurd. If you want, especially if you're lower ranks, just farm with it. You can farm with it. Eredar Brood in here, like I mentioned, just for some anti-aggro. Obscene deck. People already cut Shirvala because what's the point? 25 is not enough. Most of the time, you don't really do any damage. You're just pretty much straight up going for that Ceaseless Expanse. Other decks to talk about in Wild, not a lot. It's like, try and kill them fast. That's really, it's about Holy Wrath and trying to counter it. There are also Quasar Garrote decks that aren't performing amazing, but they're really close. I'm not going to recommend it. And I also think Quasar's going to get nerfed for standard anyways. But yeah, Shadow Priest, the usual deal. Try and kill them. No new cards. Just kill. Try and murder people. Play fast. And you got Cult Neophyte in there to try and disrupt that at OTK turn on 5, right? That's one of your shots to kind of do it if you haven't killed them by then. The Demon Seed is performing pretty well with the brand new card Hearthstone, right? The 0 mana heal up a bunch, so it helps you against aggro after you had your big Dark Glare turn. And you'll note, yes, Kobold Monk is a card being run right now because you play this on the board against Holy Wrath Paladin. They can't target your face, and they don't really run removal, so they can't kill this, and you can win. So if you're looking to farm Holy Wrath Paladin, so put Cobalt Monk into your deck. You can actually do that, and it is quite effective. Big Shaman, just a good deck, scam out early stats with your weapon, right? Gavel, you could tutor out with Fairy Tail Force, Muck Morpher, get a giant thing on the board, and then try and kill your opponent with Wind Fury, right? Like something like that, or just Jam Session and a bunch of stats. That's all you're trying to do. Pure scam deck. It doesn't really do much else than that. It's not built for the late game. And then Quest Mage I'll recommend because it can beat aggro, but more importantly, it has Ice Block. And Ice Block stops Holy Wrath. They can only do 100 damage once, and then you know you're good. You're good. So Ice Block, really good counter against Paladin, and this deck has a fair matchup against a lot of the other meta decks out there. So you have a legitimate shot. So there you go. Bunch of decks to try out. We'll have an update video hopefully next week on more decks as we go along, as things evolve. And of course, I will try and have gameplay videos as much as I can over the next little while, because there is a lot of stuff I do want to try out, and who knows what else pops up that I want to share. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Good luck on your climbs. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.